Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Wednesday, July 10th. This is Gina Palma. Over the next couple of days, we will have increases to fire potential as the first weak push of monsoon moisture moves up into the Great Basin. Today, hotter and drier conditions are expected, with the area in the pink being hot conditions, low relative humidity, dry fuels, and high Haines index. As we move into Thursday and Friday, that moisture starts to move up into mainly Utah, where the areas in red indicate the potential for isolated dry lightning. These thunderstorms also will affect the Arizona Strip and possibly move into parts of southern Nevada, more likely on Friday. We'll also have thunderstorms developing further north into Utah and Idaho as we move later in Friday and into the weekend. But we will have some moisture with these thunderstorms, but again, the potential for isolated dry thunderstorms will mainly be later this week. Over the last 24 hours, we've had no lightning really across the Great Basin, with only a few showers, especially in the far north, and generally light initial attack with new fire starts across the area. Over the last 1 to 4 weeks, we've had very light precipitation only in the far north over the last week, with very dry conditions over the last 1 to 2 weeks over much of Nevada, Utah, and the Arizona Strip. Over the last 4 weeks, we've had precipitation mainly across the eastern half of the Great Basin, with again drier spots over the last month being southern Nevada and into parts of western and northwest Nevada and southern Idaho. Even areas over the eastern half of the Great Basin that have seen precipitation, this has been below normal for the time of year. Our current fuel conditions: things have been drying out and we are seeing ERCs above the 70th or 80th percentile across mainly Utah, and above the 50th to 60th percentile over the rest of the Great Basin, but ERCs have been rapidly increasing. Looking at the 10-hour fuel moisture, you can generally see where the very dry conditions are, which is more representative of our fine fuels, and we do have an above normal fine fuel crop really across most areas of the Great Basin, but certainly the driest areas are across Nevada, Utah, and the Arizona Strip. Looking at our current ERC charts, you can see how the ERCs have increased rapidly over the last few weeks with the drier weather across the Great Basin. And currently ERCs are near normal in many areas, but have crept above normal over southern areas of the Great Basin. Looking at our live fuel moistures, these have also been on the decline and are generally near normal for the time of year. The satellite loop from this morning shows an area of low pressure moving into the Pacific Northwest with a ridge of high pressure across the Great Basin. Underneath this ridge is where we're seeing the hotter and drier conditions and generally clear skies and lighter winds. As this area of low pressure tracks on the north side of this ridge, we will see winds increase a little bit over parts of northern areas and western areas of the Great Basin later this week, but generally the main story will be the increase of moisture from the south under this ridge of high pressure as the weak monsoon moisture pushes north, increasing our potential for thunderstorms as we move later this week. Otherwise, very tranquil conditions are expected today. Again, looking at our weather pattern for later today, generally just hot and dry conditions expected in most areas. Maybe some clouds in the far north and a few showers in central Idaho, with no increases in significant fire potential today. Relative humidity will remain in the teens across most areas. Again, some breezy winds, especially across Idaho and into Nevada, but these are more typical breezes that we would see with gusts around 20 miles per hour. As we move into Thursday, this ridge of high pressure remains across the Four Corners area, and we are seeing that increase in moisture from the south. Again, mainly targeting the Arizona Strip and Utah, but also some cloud cover might move into far southern Nevada. We do have high risk issued for the potential for dry lightning over parts of the Arizona Strip into southern Utah. We will see thunderstorms further north, but some of these fuels are not quite cured in the higher elevations, which is really where the thunderstorms will target initially, will be the higher elevations, but they also could start developing in some of the mid-slopes and lower elevations as well. Looking at the forecast for Thursday, again, this is where we're expecting the thunderstorm activity, but also we might see some development a little bit further west of where these areas are depicted into southwest Utah and the Arizona Strip. More typical afternoon gusts are expected on Thursday across the area. We also will see some gusty outflow winds with these drier thunderstorms, which could increase the fire potential even further. Looking at Friday, the moisture starts to move a little bit further north and west, possibly into eastern Nevada. We do have continued high risk for dry lightning over the Arizona Strip and southern Utah, but we might start to see some of these thunderstorms move a little bit further west into southern and eastern Nevada and a little bit further north in Utah as well. But right now confidence is not quite as high, but we may have to expand our high risk as we get into Friday, as we will likely see a little bit more lightning coverage. We could also see some light amounts of rainfall with these thunderstorms, but right now they're not looking overly wet initially. Here's our weather expected for Friday. Again, you can see how these little blips of precipitation on the image on the left are scattered across Utah, possibly into eastern Nevada, and maybe even up into Idaho later in the day. Also, we'll continue just with the typical afternoon breezes, considering a ridge of high pressure is generally dominating most of the Great Basin. Forecast amounts of precipitation, again, will be pretty spotty with the thunderstorm activity, with the better chances for any wetting rains being in the higher terrain. However, we will see, again, some light precipitation elsewhere with the thunderstorms and also gusty outflow winds. As we move into the weekend, thunderstorms continue to spread north, mainly affecting the eastern half of the Great Basin, so we will continue with drier conditions over western and northwest Nevada into southwest Idaho. Also with this trough off the coast, that may increase our potential for some gustier winds over the western side of the basin as we move into the weekend. Otherwise, we'll be watching the thunderstorm activity across the eastern half of the region. We don't have any high risk issued for Saturday, but we are continuing to watch this. As we may see after a few days of thunderstorms, we may start to see some of our areas of Utah and the Arizona Strip moistening up temporarily, but we will be watching areas further north and west as thunderstorms move in for the first time. On Sunday, we continue with thunderstorm activity again over the far eastern side of the Great Basin, but you can see how this drier air is now spreading eastward. So the moisture that we are seeing move up with the monsoon is very temporary across the Great Basin. And we move into Monday and Tuesday, and again that drier air continues to push eastward, eventually pushing thunderstorms only into far eastern Utah as we move into early next week. Therefore, any moistening of the fuels we do see with this thunderstorm activity, we will start to see the fuels drying out again as early as next week. Forecast amounts of precipitation, again, not a whole lot different. Will be very spotty with the thunderstorm activity, but we're not really expecting any widespread, very wet conditions across the area. Looks like the wetter thunderstorms will be confined further east into Colorado and parts of the southwest. Looking at the 8 to 14 day outlook, temperatures near to just above normal with still the below normal precipitation signature, and this takes us into the third week in July. This is again indicating that the monsoon moisture we are getting is very brief and also very weak, so any moisture we will likely be seeing throughout the second or third week in July associated with the monsoon will be less than what we would normally see this time of year. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.